Her favorite song. Yeah.
Um, that kind of leads me into where they in the movie they start leading into who MCA was as a person, and it was really touching. All the stuff they talk about how he just was about it. Like he didn't just talk the talk; he lived his life in the way that he felt that was the honorable way to live when he converted to Buddhism, and all that he went through. And it was super special to hear those two guys talk about him in that way and cover all that ground and just really paid tribute to him in that way. And for me personally, when MCA passed away, it hit me hard. Like, I'm not the kind of person who gets affected by famous people dying, like musicians or whatever. Like, generally, it's like, I don't know that person, so it doesn't really mean anything to me. But when the Beastie Boys started the Milrepa Fund and the Tibetan Freedom concerts and stuff, um, that um, that affected me. And I also started studying Buddhism, as you remember, Billy. And I did that pretty serious for a while, and it changed me as a person to this very moment. Before in our family, and Billy can verify this, I was always known as Mean Mike. My nickname was Mean Mike
Yeah.
because I was an
That's good.
asshole. I had a lot of baggage in my life that I was just angry. I was just like a low level angry, anger simmering. And through Buddhism, I was able to remove that part of that layer of my persona and my personal out of my life. And so when I say that MCA literally changed my life, that's not an exaggeration. He literally changed who I am as a person by my exposure that the Beastie Boys gave me to Buddhism and just the ideas that were there. And so when I'm a Beastie Boys fan, that's the level of fan that I am. Like they changed my core of who I am as a person.
Yeah, man. It's I know. I saw you do it, and I totally I actually definitely remember all of that stuff in that time, and what you were kind of thinking and going through and feeling and trying. You're struggling with a bunch of other stuff too, like just like as everyone does.
Sure.
Things change, and it's just interesting and super interesting. And like, how many bands can you like kind of again follow on a timeline and watch and see how they change as people, as music, like their music changes, and like you didn't even think you might like something like that. There's some music on on Hello Nasty, or well, definitely on Ill Communication and Hello Nasty, like that's more influenced by his Buddhism.
Sure.
Just different types of songs that are like stuff you'd never normally listen to, but are like hella cool. But and I'm not like I wasn't as affected in that way and like the Buddhism stuff as you are, but
Sure.
but um, it's I guess what I'm trying to say, it's like pretty neat, like to be following a group of people that you don't really know and watch them and see how they are different and the different things that they do over time. And I happened to be in New Orleans at Jazz Fest when MCA died,
Oh.
and they announced it over the speakers or whatever. Like what those festivals are like, they're huge, and there's
Yeah, sure.
there's multiple main stages and there's billions of little stages, and it's crazy. And dude, that like wrecked whatever day that was of Jazz Fest that I was
Right.
there.
I bet.
Like I think I can't remember if that was the Stevie Wonder year or the Foo
Ooh.
Fighters year, because like yeah, it must have been the Foo Fighters one because Stevie Wonder year was dope. But anyway, um, uh, I mean Foo Fighters were awesome too. But anyways, yeah, that I will never forget when the day MCA died, because I happened to be in a weird place, not my house or whatever, and yeah, it's just I'm trying to think of other bands like if you like were a fan of Van Halen over their 30-year
50,
you
50
tenure or
years
whatever,
almost.
whatever it is, um, you know, Dave David Lee Roth is sort of David Lee Roth. He's kind of the same dude the whole time. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, sure.
Good, bad, or whatever. I'm not saying anything
I love
about it
DLR.
or anyone else. But yeah, I'm just saying it's not the same. So that's why, like, MCA definitely holds a place in my heart. Of it is lame to mourn celebrities that you don't know and
Right.
stuff like that all the time. Totally agree, but everybody gets one.
Sure. Well, that kind of the thing watching the movie, and when I'm trying to think about what the movie overall message to me in the movie is that these three dudes, they always made the most of whatever was put in front of them, no matter what it was. Like, they just made the most of everything. Like, they got a shot on some random License to Ill, and they just kept making cool all the time. Like, they never gave up on it. They never, if something wasn't working, rather than give up, they would just turn it into something even cooler than that. And even breaking up because MCA died, they made this on top of that. They always made lemonade out of whatever lemons were put in their bowl.
Yeah, totally agree. And it's I guess the overall message for me was, I think I think it started as we want to do this as a love letter to MCA, like you already said, and it clearly is, and it's clearly justified. But you just sort of took it over the top. I didn't even think about it like this. Like, I always thought of it as MCA being the sort of the engine that like made the Beastie Boys car go.
Sure.
And then you're right. They like turned around and made this thing without him. So I guess like, hey, wow.
The whole movie and the shows that we went to stemmed off of the Beastie Boys book that came out. And if you haven't checked out that book, you have to. It's absolutely fantastic book. It's just a shrine to the Beastie Boys. And like, I think sometimes this is just an aside, and it's just a personal impression based on having talked to people about the Beastie Boys in conversation or whatever. And I think that a lot of people just kind of wrote them off early as like, the frat boy clowns. And I think that there can be a perception that is what they are, like that they just weren't taken seriously because they were white rappers or whatever the reason is. And just going through that book and seeing all the they did and how important they actually were to the evolution of hip hop. And I think the book did a really good job of that. And then because the book is like a own book, this movie's just like a taste of what the book is. And it's highly recommended.
Well, guess what? If you're trying to get the message out there about the Beastie Boys and their impact, on hip hop and whatever, all you have to know is that Chuck D was the person who introduced them for their, Vanguard Award or whatever at the MTV Music Awards
right.
a few years back. It was Chuck D. Like, and if you know Chuck D or anything about that, like,
Chuck D of Public Enemy, for anybody who might not know.
I think that's something. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like,
He's
Chuck D introduced the clown princes of rap into like a Hall of Fame sort of a deal. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, that just, I feel, says everything right there. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
there's a few other personal anecdotal things about the Beastie Boys over the years for me is like they were the first time I ever heard the words Fat Burger was on the License to Ill record, because I lived in Northern California and there was no Fat Burger, but they flew Fat Burger when they were way out west.
There still isn't.
And so when I first moved to LA, my studio manager at the time is a guy named Tom Mott, and I actually still work on products with Tom in the card game business. And Tom Mott will probably end up being a guest on the show. But the first day at my first new video game job, he's like, well, where do you want to go to lunch? And I was like, Fat Burger. And so